Part 161. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1611. Sitting alone, Tang Tang sulked, hoping that Xiao Rui could find him. I don't know how long I waited, and I heard the crowd in front of me restless and talking. She looked up and saw the bright lights of the Ferris wheel in the distance, and a few huge English letters lit up in the center, I love you. Tang Tang laughed immediately. It must be Xiao Rui. He said that he has prepared many surprises. Away, romance is dead, romance is dead. Ignoring the pain in her feet and the exhaustion, Tang Tang ran towards the Ferris wheel full of joy, and within a short distance, she saw a path paved with rose petals, as if guiding her direction. Away, Rose Road, Love Road. So happy. There were fewer and fewer tourists around, and the front seemed to be cleared. When she ran under the Ferris wheel, there was no one nearby. Tang Tang looked up at the Ferris wheel, feeling excited and joyful, so excited that it was beyond words. The Ferris wheel is called the Star and Moon Wheel, with a diameter of 110 meters and a height of 120 meters. It is equipped with 48 cabins, each of which can accommodate 8 people. Sitting inside, when you reach the highest point, you can have a panoramic view of the surrounding scenery of Qingjiang City, which is extremely spectacular. Even at night, it is also a good place to enjoy the night scenery. Tang Tang waited with anticipation for a while. The huge Ferris wheel slowly came to a stop, and the cockpit door opened. Brilliantly illuminated by the surrounding lights, she saw countless flowers arranged in the nearest cockpit, candlelight dinners on the table, and the charming color of wine rippling in a romantic mood, which was shockingly beautiful. Tang Tang's heart melted. She walked in happily and found that the table was full of her favorite food. Someone came in behind and closed the hatch. Tang Tang turned around with a smile, Xiao. There was one word left, and after seeing who it was, she stuck it in her throat. Why are you? Tang Tang was shocked. Gu Liang sneered, who else is it? Renting a puppet outfit for 80 yuan is probably his limit. Tang Tang wrinkled her nose, Yuking is full of water. I don't think he is poor. You don't think he is poor, but he must have the awareness to be robbed of love by rich people at any time. Gu Liang's words were mean, and jealousy completely tore his gentlemanly demeanor. Humph, Tang Tang said with a stern face, I don't want to talk to you, I want to go down. Don't be afraid of falling to your death, just go down. Gu Liang walked to the side and sat down, picked up the knife and fork, and cut the steak slowly. Tang Tang glanced down, it was getting farther and farther away from the ground. She pursed her lips, turned to look at Gu Liang, a little aggrieved. Gu Liang put the cut steak on her plate, looked at her, and said softly, come and eat. Tang Tang sniffed pitifully, sat across from Gu Liang, and ate in silence. Eat the small tomatoes too, otherwise it will be too greasy. Gu Liang picked up the small tomatoes she had picked out and put them back on the plate. With her mouth full of food, Tang Tang replied vaguely, this is sour. Not sour. Gu Liang coaxed her patiently, this is a new variety, very sweet. Tang Tang was reluctant to eat it, maybe it really wasn't sour, so chew it and swallow it. Gu Liang sighed, looked at her and sighed, aside from me, who else can stand up to you? Tang Tang, stop making trouble, and call him later to make it clear that no more contact is allowed, you understand? Tang Tang curled her lips, but he really likes him. Gu Liang. He put down the knife and fork, picked up the glass, looked at the night scene in the distance, and took a sip slowly. Tang Tang glanced at him, lowered her head and continued to eat heartlessly. After about a quarter of an hour, the Ferris wheel reached the highest point. Bang bang. The lights are all off, the Ferris wheel is still, and the candles in the cockpit are dim and dim. Tang Tang swallowed half a small tomato, her body stiffened and she dared not move. Gu Liang in front of him was a little gloomy against the candlelight, but he was still suave and handsome, and he had a familiar aura that she missed. Tang Tang moved slowly, then again, moved to his side, and silently wrapped his arms around his waist. If only something could happen on the Ferris wheel. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1612. Tang Tang didn't move, neither did Gu Liang. After a while, Gu Liang whispered, "My patience is limited." Tang Tang pursed her lips tightly. He added, "But for you, I always have endless patience." Gu Liang sighed softly, "I can always let you play outside and go crazy outside, but the premise is that you must go home." Tang Tang, "I can't allow you to be with others." Tang Tang moved slightly, but still didn't speak. Gu Liang raised her chin and stared down at her. "I'm not musening, do you understand? I won't be your past, I will support you forever." Tang Tang's eyelashes fluttered twice, crystal clear tears rolled down, her face was full of sadness and grievance. "You are lying, you clearly despise him." "I love you." Gu Liang felt sour, picked her up, and kissed away the tears from the corners of her lips. "Don't leave me, Tang Tang, don't leave me." Tang Tang's tears kept flowing. "Gu Liang, I'm no longer an evil god, I can't help you, I can't save you, I can't summon ghosts, I can't exorcise evil spirits, I have nothing left." "I don't care." Gu Liang grabbed the back of her head and kissed her deeply. He won't say those romantic love words, he only knows that he misses her very much. The heartbreak of half a year, after the reunion, he finally pieced together bit by bit a complete picture. Every broken crack is pouring out. He used to miss her so much. Before meeting her, he would imagine what his future partner would look like, how beautiful, how smart, and outline that image almost perfectly. But after meeting her, no matter how perfect a woman is, she can't beat her heart. His kiss was as delicate and gentle as ever. With the demeanor of an elegant gentleman, he restrained, suppressed, and courteously coaxed out the desire hidden under the senses, and then gradually lost control and became violent like a storm. Miss her so much. Apart from kissing over and over again, kissing tirelessly, kissing closely, there is no other way to relieve the accumulated longing. Tang Tang tasted the sweetness of the wine and its familiar smell. She was deeply fascinated, her fair face glowed with a charming peach pink, and she was very cute in the candlelight. Then, she remembered something in a trance, and when Gu Liang rolled to the neck, she whispered softly, "Actually, I don't have nothing, I still have breasts." Gu Liang couldn't help chuckling, and pecked her tender and smooth neck vigorously. "What are you laughing at?" Tang Tang was dissatisfied, and tried to puff up her chest. "It's very big, if you don't believe me, touch it." Ye Gu Liang stretched out his hand to touch it, and praised it sincerely. "It's very big." Tang Tang stared at him fixedly, there was an inextricable obsession, attachment, and longing in his dewy eyes. "Gu Liang, you kiss it, okay." Gu Liang's eyes dimmed slightly, and the corners of his lips turned up slightly. "Are you sure? Here." She has never been ashamed and reserved. She bit her lips and looked at him. After a while, she said two words straightforwardly and purely, "I want." After she finished speaking, there was a little greed in her eyes, as if she was remembering the joy of the past. She began to rub against him restlessly. "Don't make trouble." Gu Liang stopped her. He still hasn't asked what she thinks of him. However, it is not easy to clear up feelings and reason with her. This pleasure-seeking little cat has always been his nemesis. Long time no see, yearning like crazy. His last sliver of sanity finally disintegrated inch by inch. Tang Tang leaned on his shoulder, looking out of the glass window with blurred eyes, the boundless starry sky, deep, empty, sinking into it, so dreamy and ethereal. Her whole world is spinning. The system forces me to be elegant. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1613. It was not easy, thanks to Gu Liang's skillful technique, she didn't suffer too much. Gu Liang also secretly sighed in his heart, and had a deeper understanding of Tang Tang's greedy nature. For the sake of comfort, he really knew it would hurt, but he didn't care about it. What a little madman! When she couldn't help herself, tears overflowed from the corners of her eyes, and a few weeping sounds came out from her lips and teeth, trembling in his ear. I like you, Gu Liang, I like you the most. He turned her face and kissed her fiercely. I don't want you to be the favorite, I want you to only like me, only me. Remember it? She was crying, not knowing whether it was comfortable or uncomfortable, sobbing and bargaining. Then you should only like me, only sleep with me, only be with me. Greedy ghost Gu Liang's heart was burning hot because of her words, and thinking of this guy always coaxing him with sweet words, the burning flames burst into anger again, and he became more ferocious and savage. The emotional tide swept over the two of them at the same time like a torrent of beasts, and the candle in the cockpit went out at some point. Under the Ferris wheel, two young men were sitting idle in the operating room. A person looked up and said, "It's extremely cold at the top, after stopping for so long, do you want to send a quilt to Master Gu?" The other person also looked at the pitch-black cockpit. "I don't know how hot it is inside, what kind of quilt should I send?" "That's right," the other party nodded, and said, "Is the other side of the river ready soon?" "Well, it's almost time." Tang Tang squinted her eyes, and sat on Gu Liang's body like a satisfied cat, lazily motionless. Gu Liang moved slightly, and she hummed reluctantly. "Don't move, it's comfortable like this," she murmured softly, and rubbed against his chin again. Gu Liang coaxed her in a low voice, "I'll take a dress." He picked up the coat at the side and wrapped it around her white and smooth body. She nestled in his arms and smiled, "It smells so good." The clothes were just put on a piece of flowers, and they were infected by the fragrance of the flowers, and they also became fragrant. "Not as fragrant as you." Gu Liang put his arms around her, sniffed deeply on her neck, and couldn't help but bow his head and peck at her. Tang Tang smiled and asked, "I was fragrant before, or am I fragrant now?" Same. Gu Liang brushed aside her bangs on her forehead, seldom said a witty thing. "It's not the smell, it's the mood. It's sweet in the heart, and everything smells good." Gu Liang thought to himself, why do these words sound so familiar? Tang Tang, that's Yao. He was about to talk to her about the third party's interference, when Tang Tang suddenly exclaimed, "Wow! So beautiful!" Fireworks ignited on the other side of the Qingjiang River. The cold night sky was suddenly noisy, huge fireworks bloomed, the sky and water were double-layered, resplendent and magnificent, and the flowers were shining, and then the petals fell like rain, like meteors and fire. Those enchanting and disillusioned colors are reflected in her pupils, and with the light in her eyes, there is a thrilling and charming beauty. Gu Liang stared deeply, feeling that this scene is enough to remember for a lifetime. In ancient times, King Yu of Zhou lit a beacon for Bo Baisi's smile. It turns out that in order to coax the sweetheart to show their faces and laugh, they would really be willing to be stupid, even if they set the whole Qingjiang River on fire. What's the problem? During the fireworks feast, I couldn't help but have another lingering. Afterwards, Gu Liang sent Tang Tang home. It was too late. When the car stopped at the gate of the community, he met Tian's father and Tian's mother. The couple looked anxious and were about to go out to look for their daughter. When they saw Tang Tang get out of Gu Liang's car, they were shocked. "Tang Tang, didn't you go out with Xiao Rui? Why did you come back in Mr. Gu's car?" Tang Tang replied calmly, "How else would you come back? It's comfortable to ride in his car." Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1614. Father Tian thought that his daughter had provoked Gu Liang again, so he hurriedly apologized. I'm really sorry. Mr. Gu, my Tang Tang has caused you trouble again. It's okay, no trouble. Gu Liang patted Tang Tang's head. I've been sleepy in the car just now, go back to sleep. Tang Tang hugged his waist naturally, resting his head on his chest. I want to sleep with you. Tian's father and Tian's mother turned pale with fright, and hurriedly pulled their daughter over. Mr. Gu, don't take offense. My daughter is pure. She doesn't know much about the world, don't take it seriously. The couple rushed to defend themselves, and dragged Tang Tang home in a panic, regardless of Tang Tang's wishes. Gu Liang looked at the figure of their family of three from a distance, and the corners of his mouth could not help but turn up slightly. He had a pleasant feeling that something good was coming. If it continues like this, she should be able to take her home soon, right? The Tian family held an emergency family meeting late at night. Even 11-year-old Tian Xiao also participated. The theme of the meeting was Tian Tang's extremely chaotic emotional status quo. Although her daughter is 22 years old, considering that she suffered from autism in the first 16 years and was a fool in the next 3 years, the Tian family couple always treated her as an immature child. It is reasonable to be childish in terms of feelings. When seeing one loves the other, the parents turn a blind eye and close their eyes, but on the street hugging a man and saying that he wants to sleep, this is too scary. Tang Tang. Mother Tian asked her daughter earnestly, Xiao Zhao, Peng Xiaojun, Xiao Rui, and Mr. Gu, who do you like more among these people? This time Tang Tang was quite conscientious, and replied, I like Mr. Gu better. But you've only known each other for 2 days. Father Tian couldn't help interrupting. And you two are many years apart. Mother Tian continued. Tang Tang valued his parents very much. Seeing that they all showed a look of shock, he asked hesitantly, You don't like him? It's not that I don't like it, it's that I think it's inappropriate. I see that Mr. Gu also brings bodyguards when he travels on weekdays. He must be a hidden big man, and our family can't afford to provoke him. Yes, and he should be in his 30s. How can a man of this age be single? Maybe he already has a wife at home. Tang Tang, you are obedient. You can't like that kind of person casually. He smiles at you because of his self-cultivation and demeanor, not because he really likes you. Tang Tang couldn't help muttering, but he clearly said he likes me. Mother Tian said sadly again, the wealthy family has many rules. If you marry into it and get bullied, your parents will not be able to make decisions for you. It is true that there are many rules. Every time Gu Liang's mother came to the house, she always picked a lot of problems with her. Tang Tang nodded approvingly. Her younger brother rubbed his sleepy eyes and said, Isn't it enough to tell my sister not to marry? Anyway, no matter who you marry, parents will definitely be worried. The Tian family couple looked at each other, quite helpless. Indeed. But, how can there be a woman who doesn't marry? Tian's mother sighed, gently stroking her daughter's hair. A woman will marry sooner or later in her life, marry a good family, give birth to a good baby, honor your parents-in-law, a husband and a child. The family meeting did not discuss the results. In short, the husband and wife gave 10,000 warnings, admonishing their daughter not to provoke men indiscriminately. Before, she provoked her neighbor Xiao Zhao, but now Xiao Zhao has moved away and a Xiao Gu is here. They didn't think that Gu Liang would like their own daughter, the kind of rich man. What kind of beautiful girl have they never seen? I'm afraid it's just for teasing and playing. But Tang Tang listened to his younger brother's words. If she gets married, she will have to move away from home. Although she likes Gu Liang very much, she is also reluctant to part with her parents. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 1615. Xiao Rui couldn't find Tang Tang that day, so he ran around in a hurry. Called to tell me to turn off the phone, guessing it was out of battery, and went to Tian's house again at night, but Tang Tang didn't come home, scared Tian's parents to go out to find their daughter. Xiao Rui was also looking outside, and then received a call from Tian's father in the middle of the night, saying that Tang Tang had gone home and told him not to worry. How can you not worry? I didn't want to disturb others' rest, so I had to wait until the next morning before calling Tang Tang. But Tang Tang was angry about getting up, and her tone on the phone was very cold, so she hung up the phone after saying a few words. Xiao Rui was flustered in his heart, wondering if it was because his performance in the haunted house was so cowardly that the goddess despised him. When calling Tang Tang again to make an appointment, Tang Tang was also absent-minded. In fact, it's not that she changed her mind quickly, it's that she was a little depressed after the family meeting, always felt in a dilemma, reluctant to leave her family, and yearned for the tenderness with Gu Liang. 2 or 3 days later, Tang Tang's mood became even worse. Because of her online food delivery store, she received a notice telling her that from now on, photos of real people are not allowed to be used in store logo pictures, so as to prevent stores from using photos to mislead consumers. The store logo needs to upload the brand logo picture, otherwise the system will display the store name text by default. The logo of her little sweet duhua shop has always been a selfie of her eating duhua. Now it is not allowed to use it. Looking at the few personal pictures she put on the introduction page, they were also deleted by the system. All, delete, delete. Tang Tang's mood was shrouded in gloom. After Xiao Rui learned about it, he offered to help Tang Tang tide over the difficulties. Xiao Rui found a classmate majoring in fine arts, and designed a series of cartoon images for Tang Tang. Some looked like eating bean curd, some looked like drinking soy milk, sometimes they were smiling faces, sometimes they pouted, and sometimes they winked. As expected, Tang Tang was coaxed into joy, and happily uploaded her comics as the new store logo of Little Sweet Tang. In the product introduction, she also interspersed with different expressions of herself according to the text, having a great time. After going back and forth, Tang Tang and Xiao Rui became close again. Gu Liang waited for a few days, but did not see any sign from Tang Tang, but waited for the news that she and Xiao Rui were reconciled. Gu Liang's face was livid. Ungrateful. It's really, so heartless. All those sweet words on the Ferris wheel were really just to coax him. There was laughter from the neighbors outside the window. Gu Liang came to the balcony with a cold face, only to see Tang Tang was smiling and waving downstairs. An electric remote-controlled helicopter slowly flew up, and there was a small basket hanging underneath. There was no expensive gift in the basket, but a piece of letter paper with a heart-shaped red leaf on it. It was such a thing that actually made her smile. Gu Liang was so angry that his heart was on fire. Compared with financial resources and status, he has never been afraid of anyone, but compared with novelty, he is really not as quick-witted as these little bastards. How to do? Invite a think tank to come over and compete with each other for creativity. Gu Liang thought deeply, and felt that he might have mistaken the goal of conquering the whole time, and he should draw from the bottom of the pot. On the weekend, Gu Liang asked Xiao Rui to meet. A check for 5 million was placed on the table and gently pushed in front of the other party. He never dreamed that one day he would vomit blood like this, just like a wealthy lady in a TV drama throwing a wad of money in front of her husband and lover, ordering her to leave. Xiao Rui stood up suddenly, his back straightened. Mr. Gu. I know you are rich, but my personality cannot accept such an insult. His eyes were burning, and his voice was firm. Tang Tang and I are truly in love. You don't want to use money to tarnish our pure love. Gu Liang pinched his brows with a slight headache. When the matter is settled, he must drag that little heartless thing here for a spanking. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1616. Sit down and talk, Gu Liang said calmly. Whether you take the money or not, you have to sit down and explain the matter clearly. What do you think? The young boy thought for a while, accepted his proposal, and sat down again, but his eyes were still wary. No matter what you say, I will never leave Tang Tang, he said solemnly. Mr. Gu, there are many things in this world that cannot be bought with money. Yes, not everything can be bought with money, but if you don't have money, you will definitely lose a lot. Such as opportunities, such as health, such as time. Gu Liang smiled gently and asked, you love her so much, you must know her very well. What kind of girl do you think she is? Xiao Rui said, she is innocent, cute, kind, and filial. These are too general. Gu Liang interrupted him, smiling. Let's be more specific. What does she like to eat the most? What does she usually like to play with? What brand of clothes she wears? What price of skincare products she uses? How much does she spend? I bought a pink Hello Kitty bag for 10,000 yuan, just to match my electric car worth 3,000 yuan. Do you know all of this? Xiao Rui's complexion changed slightly, and he said hesitantly, Tang Tang she has a simple temper, and spends money a bit extravagantly. I don't mind these things. After graduation, I will work hard to earn money. Gu Liang is unhurried. Even if you graduate and find a job, the internship period will be 3 to 6 months. There are few vacations, a lot of overtime, no time to accompany your girlfriend, less gatherings and more departures, and the workplace is under great pressure. When you come back every day, you are tired. You just want to fall back to sleep, but when you turn on your phone, you find that there are still a bunch of missed calls and unread messages, so you start to brace yourself, thinking about making her happy. How long do you think you can last? Xiao Rui's face became more and more ugly. He was about to defend himself, but Gu Liang said again, even if you have amazing willpower, you can persevere, but how long can Tang Tang last? You should know what kind of personality she is. To put it bluntly, she is fresh. To put it bluntly, it is to see the difference, to forget the old, and to have no conscience. Xiao Rui, unable to refute. You work hard for a month, and you may not have a day's income from her takeaway business. You earn less than her, and you have no time to accompany her. This colorful world is full of temptations. Do you think she will still choose by then? You. Gu Liang sighed softly, and pushed the check in front of him. Take it, whether you want to study abroad or continue to take the postgraduate entrance examination, learn more skills, and gain a foothold in this society in the future, so that you can have a solid and powerful force for the future. She shelters from the wind and rain. The windbreaker is romantic for a while. If you want to be romantic for a lifetime, you must at least earn enough money to buy a wedding house in Xinjiang City, right? If she really loves you as you said, she will definitely wait patiently for your successful return. Xiao Rui looked down at the check in front of him and remained silent for a long time. Gu Liang didn't rush, picked up the coffee on the table, and took a sip slowly. The smell was not very good, and his brows were slightly frowned. Mr. Gu, I didn't expect you to say this to me, Xiao Rui whispered. I am very grateful to you. Gu Liang raised his eyebrows slightly. Have you started using you? The young boy seemed deeply moved, picked up the check, and suddenly bowed deeply to Gu Liang. I will definitely let you see the day when I come back successfully. I will never disappoint your expectations. Gu Liang looked at him with a faint smile, thinking, my hope is that you never come back. After sending Xiao Rui away, Gu Liang wanted to mention marriage to Tang Tang. Her personality is too out of character. If she doesn't marry her and go home to watch over her carefully, he won't be able to feel at ease, as there is a danger of a green light shining on her head at any time. But for some reason, Tang Tang's attitude was perfunctory, sometimes, even avoiding him. 4 updates today, and tomorrow. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1617. Gu Liang put a lot of thought into Tian's family, and never had such a hard time in any previous relationship. Even if it is a marriage with the Ruan family, the woman will cooperate unconditionally, so he doesn't need to worry about it. It is really convenient to live next door. For example, falsely claiming that there is a power outage at his home, knocking on the door to ask, and borrowing a flashlight, Tian's father and Tian's mother will entertain him very enthusiastically every time. Father Tian said it was just a trip, told Gu Liang the location of the switch, and carefully taught him how to deal with such situations. In the past, men in every household would repair some electrical appliances. If the lamps, washing machines, and electric fans were broken, they would all fix them at home by themselves. At that time, there was no such thing as door-to-door repairs. In order to thank the couple, Gu Liang would buy some fresh fruit to send. Noticing that Mother Tian likes to grow orchids, she sent a few pots of high-quality orchids over, using the excuse that she couldn't keep them alive. After coming and going, the two families quickly became familiar with each other. Tian's father and Tian's mother also began to change their views on Gu Liang. Although Mr. Gu is rich, he doesn't have the airs of a rich man at all. He is a rare good man, Papa Tian said so. Yeah, and he has no temper at all, and is always kind. Last time I gave him bean curd, I saw a lot of books in his house. People who love to read are not far behind, Tian's mother echoed. When I came home from school yesterday, I saw that he bought a lot of canned cat food, Tian Xiao added earnestly. He obviously doesn't keep cats, but he was worried that Batao would be hungry when he went to his house, so he prepared food specially, so caring. Tang Tang walked out of the room like a wandering spirit, ignoring the astonished eyes of the family, picked up the glass sleepily, poured himself half a glass of water, took a few sips, and then walked back to the room slowly. Mother Tian was worried about her, so she followed her and asked, "Why have you been so sluggish these days? Could it be illness?" Tang Tang nestled on the bed, rolled the quilt around her body, and replied sullenly, "I don't know." Mother Tian reached out and covered her forehead, a little unsure, turned around to look for a thermometer in the drawer. Recently, the temperature has dropped suddenly, many people have caught a cold, and Mr. Gu next door also has a fever and coughing badly. Tang Tang managed to open his eyes when he heard the words, "Is he sick?" Yes. Mother Tian found the thermometer, raised Tang Tang's arm, and put it under her armpit. "Then I'll give him the pills later," Tang Tang muttered in a low voice. Mother Tian laughed, "You should take care of yourself first." After waiting for a while, she took out the thermometer to check, and Mama Tian said strangely, "The temperature is a little higher, but it's not to the point of having a fever, it's 3-point poisonous medicine. I'll make you some ginger syrup and drink something warm. Sweating should be fine." Tang Tang thought for a while, then closed her eyes wearily. Sleeping drowsily, she vaguely felt that someone helped her to sit up and gave her a few sips of water, which tasted sweet and a little spicy. When I woke up again, it was already 2 o'clock in the night. She sat on the bed in a daze for a while, feeling like she had forgotten something. Oh! To send Gu Liang cold medicine. She remembered, got out of bed, put on her clothes, took a box of cold medicine from the drawer, and walked out the door in a daze with her slippers on. The family members slept soundly, and no one noticed. Gu Liang also fell into a deep sleep, and the doorbell rang for a long time before he was awakened, but when he looked out through the peephole, he couldn't see anyone. Just as he was wondering, he suddenly heard Tang Tang calling his name softly. Gu Liang was slightly startled, and immediately opened the door, only to find Tang Tang squatting in front of his house, eyes half closed, as if about to fall asleep. Tang Tang. Why did you open the door? She complained weakly, my feet are numb. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1618. Gu Liang reached out to support her, and she frowned softly, ma 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 ma. Gu Liang could only carry her back into the room, tuck her into his bed, and rub her legs over and over again. Tang Tang sobbed, the more you need, the more numb it becomes. Boom. Gu Liang pressed and coaxed, no, just rub and pat to restore blood circulation, and the numbness will soon disappear. Tang Tang hummed for a while, twisted her body, her voice gradually weakened, and gradually disappeared. Gu Liang raised his eyes and looked again, and found that she had fallen asleep, and couldn't help but laugh for a moment. Seeing her holding a cold tablet in her hand again, her heart felt a little warmer, she sighed softly, hugged her into her arms, and fell asleep too. In the middle of the night, it snowed outside. When Gu Liang woke up, he found that the windowsill had been covered with a thin layer of snow, and there were also delicate patterns of snow patterns on the glass windows. The snow came very early this year, and it is only mid-November now. The sudden cold snap has prevented people from making enough preparations for winter. Gu Liang looked back at Tang Tang, who was still sleeping soundly, the corners of his mouth slightly turned up. He gently opened the window, gathered the snow on the windowsill, and pinched a little snowman. Two small snowballs are stacked together, which is a bit monotonous. He found two toothpicks for the snowman to use as hands, opened a bottle of mineral water, and used the bottle cap as a hat. Not knowing what material to use for the eyes, Gu Liang searched around the house, and finally picked out one of his favorite coffee beans, cut it in half and used it as eyes for the snowman. Busily making a good snowman, I admired it for a while, recalled my behavior, felt funny, couldn't help shaking my head, and closed the window. He returned to the bed, and as soon as he lifted the quilt, he heard Tang Tang mutter in an unhappy voice, where did you go just now? The quilt is not warm anymore. I'll warm you up right away. Gu Liang gently hugged her, and the palm that touched Shui was slightly hot, just in time to help her warm up. The skin in the hand is soft and moist, addictive to the touch. Rubbing it leisurely, it feels softer, smoother, and more interesting. Gu Liang was a little moved, and slowly bit her swollen neck. She still pouted and complained, I have been hearing you walking around, and the sound of opening drawers, so noisy that I can't sleep well. Then don't sleep. He unceremoniously stripped off her clothes. Aren't you sick? Well, stomach trouble, I'm hungry. Take it easy, don't gnaw on other people's breasts. After being lingering, Gu Liang put his arms around her and repeated the old story, asking when she would go back with him. Do we have to get married? Tang Tang said in confusion, it's actually good for us to be like this now. Marriage is just a lot of papers. I don't want to leave my parents, my brother is still so young, I will miss them. You can come back to see them whenever you want, don't you miss me? Gu Liang touched her face lightly, with a melancholy tone, do you want us to meet secretly like this all the time in the future? Tang Tang subconsciously hugged him even tighter, in a dilemma. She is greedy and wants to hold all the things she loves in her hands, but how can everything go her way in this world? Come on, let me show you something. Gu Liang coaxed her to get up, opened half of the curtains, and let her see the little snowman standing on the windowsill outside. Tang Tang was delighted, snowman. It snowed last night? I really want to play with it. Gu Liang smiled and said, it can be stored in the refrigerator. He found a white porcelain cup and saucer, put the snowman on it, and was about to put it in the refrigerator when Tang Tang said excitedly, "I'm going to show it to my parents." She quickly put on her coat, picked up the snowman and ran home. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1619. Tian's parents had already woken up at this time, and were busy making bean curds. When the door opened, the smell of beans came to their faces. Tang Tang wrinkled her nose in discomfort. Both husband and wife were taken aback. They thought their daughter was still sound asleep, but now seeing her in pajamas with a little snowman in her hand, they couldn't help asking in surprise, "Tang Tang, when did you go out?" Tang Tang didn't have time to answer their questions, afraid that the snowman would melt, so she quickly brought it over for them to see. "Gu Liang made me a little snowman." The tone is full of pride. "I want to store it in the refrigerator. Every year when it snows, let him pinch one for me and store it all," Tang Tang said. The couple looked at her in disbelief. "Tang Tang, you ran to find Mr. Gu to make a snowman for you early in the morning. He was woken up by you, isn't he angry?" "He's happy," Tang Tang replied heartlessly. She happily put the little snowman in the refrigerator, reluctant to close the refrigerator door, and was admiring it when Father Tian lifted the lid of the stainless steel soybean milk bucket. It was supposed to be a strong bean fragrance, but she smelled an indescribable beany smell. In the morning, her sensitive stomach was overwhelmed. She couldn't hold it back, and vomited while holding the refrigerator door. Tang Tang. Tian's father and Tian's mother were taken aback by her reaction, and hurried over. Tang Tang's stomach was empty all night, and after vomiting for a long time, it was full of sour water, and his mouth was full of bitter taste. "Am I going to die?" She had never felt so uncomfortable. Her throat was burning, and tears flowed out. She turned and rushed to the bathroom to brush her teeth and rinse her mouth, trying to wash away the sour smell. Tian's mother was very distressed, and she followed her to remind her, "Take it easy, or you should vomit again." Before the words were finished, Tang Tang supported the sink and retched in pain again. "I'm dying. I must be dying," Tang Tang cried. "Mom. Am I terminally ill?" "Hey, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Nothing will happen. Mom and Dad will take you to the hospital right away, don't be afraid." Don't care about the bean curd and soy milk. The couple took out a handful of change and put it on the table, let the younger son make breakfast by himself, and hurriedly sent Tang Tang to the hospital. First hung up a gastroenterology department. The doctor is well informed and has received many ignorant girls recently, so after asking about the situation, he was not in a hurry to prescribe medicine, and asked, "When was the last menstruation?" How could Tang Tang worry about this? She shook her head immediately. "But after coming to the hospital, I felt much more comfortable and didn't feel like vomiting anymore." The doctor said, "Let's do a urine test first." Tian's father and Tian's mother are honest people. They will do whatever the doctor tells them to do, and they will take their daughter for an examination immediately. When the result came out, all three of them were stunned. Tang Tang is pregnant. Tian's father was dumbfounded. Tian's mother opened her mouth, and spit out a sentence for a long time, "Whose child is it?" Although Tang Tang was dazed, her normal reaction was still there, and she clutched her stomach and replied, "Of course it's mine. Father Tian. Mama Tian." After a long silence, the couple felt that something was wrong, so they took Tang Tang to check again. Tang Tang is still pregnant. How is this going? Could it be Xiao Rui's? Papa Tian looked sad, but he went abroad last month. How can we get in touch? Tears welled up in Tian's mother's eyes. "My poor daughter, it's because I didn't take good care of her." Tang Tang called Gu Liang. Her voice was excited, Gu Liang. I'm pregnant with a baby. Papa Tian's legs trembled and he almost fell limp. Who did she just say? Gu Liang's calm and humble image has been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. It is really hard for the couple to imagine that their daughter will have a relationship with him, not to mention that he has only moved here for 2 months. However, 10 minutes later, a panicked and anxious figure of a man appeared at the other end of the corridor. He ran over and hugged Tang Tang, looking into her eyes in disbelief. I'm going to be a father. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 1620. Gu Liang sent Tang Tang to the best private hospital for women and children in the city. This time I did a series of examinations, which were more professional and comprehensive. By the way, I led the family to the first maternal and child care course in the hospital. Tang Tang's body is very healthy. She is about 6 weeks pregnant, that is to say, almost 1.5 months. Gu Liang silently counted the time in his mind. There are only a handful of times he has done it during this period. If it was a month and a half ago, it should be the time on the Ferris wheel. It was unexpected. I worked diligently for more than half a year before, but I didn't see any movement in her stomach. I didn't expect to hit the target with a dart this time. The more I thought about it, the more excited I became. I couldn't help hugging her and kissing her again. Tian's father and Tian's mother stared at the two of them in a daze. A month and a half ago, isn't it the same as when Gu Liang just moved here, he and their daughter? What happened? According to the normal reaction, the parents should be furious, but this couple in front of them is so sweet. Especially my own daughter, who looks like a little bird clinging to others. Since she met Gu Liang, she has never seen her standing upright, either leaning against Gu Liang's arms, or sitting on Gu Liang's lap, as if she had no bones. Such a greasy atmosphere. As parents, they have no place to vent their anger, no place to complain about their suffering. They can only stare and slowly digest everything that happened today. Gu Liang and Tang Tang were immersed in the joy of becoming parents. On the way home, they kissed each other, touched their bellies, and kissed their little mouths. Fortunately, Tian's parents were in another car, otherwise they would probably be irritated again. After finally going home, I want to find a chance to have a good talk with my daughter. Even if the daughter's character is a little unclear, but such an important matter, even if it is unclear, it has to be discussed. However, Tang Tang started to vomit again as soon as she got home. I really want to spit out the bile, so that I don't even have the strength to speak, let alone eat and drink. She couldn't smell the smell of beans, and cried at home in discomfort. I'm going to live with Gu Liang. Tian's father and Tian's mother sighed helplessly. Gu Liang naturally felt sorry for Tang Tang. But the few houses he bought had their wallpapers repasted. Even if they used environmentally friendly materials, there was still some formaldehyde left. The measured value may be within the acceptable range of normal people, but Tang Tang is pregnant. Pregnant women are so delicate. Gu Liang discussed with Tian's parents, and finally got his wish and took Tang Tang back to the house. It's a rare opportunity, and by the way, the marriage certificate is also taken away. As for the wedding, I can only coax her to do it when she is happy, and when she wants to do it. After taking such good care of her for several months, Tang Tang is about to give birth. She had a psychological shadow, and she was always worried that the baby she gave birth would die, or be sold by the nurse. Before the pain started, she was already crying and fussing. It was only when Gu Liang accompanied her into the delivery room that it stopped. The head of the Gu family suddenly had a child without saying a word, and such news immediately reached Murong Cheng's ears. He laughed so loudly with his mobile phone that he almost couldn't straighten his waist. Mu Zi stared at him, and he said happily, Gu Liang's wife gave birth to a child, and when the child was born, Gu Liang was so excited that he passed out. Ha 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 ha. Muzi pursed her lips in joy when she heard the words, and hurriedly asked, "Is the baby a boy or a girl?" Murong Cheng asked the other end of the phone, "What happened?" After a while, his face darkened, and Muse's heart skipped a beat, and he asked nervously, "What's wrong? Is there any problem with the child?" Murong Cheng shook his head with a dull expression, "The child is very healthy, a pair of twin daughters. Mentally out of balance. Why does Gu Liang have two daughters, but I only have one?" Muzi heaved a sigh of relief, and said with a smile, "It's good that the mother and daughter are safe." Murong Cheng looked at his two sons with gloomy eyes, "You have to fight hard and marry all his daughters into our family in the future, you know." Muzi on the side shook her head helplessly, already numb to her husband's intermittent neuropathy.